Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. It's your boy, Jack Yuggs, back with another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. We're back in Edison format, as we always are. I struggle to commit myself to the self-torture that is modern format, so for the time being at least. Maybe if I get some more masochistic tendencies, we'll try modern again. But for now, it's just Edison. I've got a hero deck for you today. Recently, there was a local winner box tournament at store Plenty of Games here in the Melbourne Central Business District. Would recommend coming down if you're from Melbourne and haven't yet. They run Edison's every Tuesday night. There's also another store called Gamingverse that runs Edison's every Sunday night, but I think they're going to switch to alternating between Tengu format and Edison. So just thought I'd shout them out if anyone's keen. They're both really well-run stores. But yeah, so I haven't been playing too much IRL Edison as of late. I had been grinding on Dueling Book in the previous ranked season. I know it's just a reset recently. And I basically played heroes for the most part. I'd say once I reached like maybe, I don't know, 500 rating, which is relatively low comparatively to the top of the leaderboard. I was just playing heroes like basically every single game. And I think I finished in around like 16th spot with like maybe 1,250 points or something like that. I could have gone down a bit. I didn't play the last couple of days, so some people might have passed me. That's fair enough. But yeah, so it's been going like well overall. Testing a lot of different cards. Still not 100% on this list, but I just thought I'd just show the list. Anyways, I like doing these, so like, I mean, it might be pretty similar to other hero decks you've seen before, but like, yeah, if that's the case and you're a bit bored, then you can just turn off the video. That's completely fine as well. I don't want to hold you here hostage. So let's get started with the main deck. We're playing heroes, so we're gonna have a few like absolutely stable cards. Obviously, Stratus is one of them. Let me know, guys. I'm having a bit of an internal debate and an external debate with my friends in my Yu-Gi-Oh group chat. Which Stratus rarity looks the best? I personally think it's the rare from, I think it's like Faratur or something like that. Because it looks clean, like it's just a clean rare. And clean rares are like, obviously like pretty cool in my opinion. And also like, the Faratur adds like a bit of, I guess exclusivity to it, because it only ran for like a few years, like way back in the day. I had the privilege of playing a few of them, but it's pretty cool. Like the Jump Stratus is really good as well. But yeah, let me know what you think, like which one is overall the best, and especially like which one out of the Jump Stratus and the rares best. I'm probably in the minority. I'm probably like cooking nothing here, but like, just let me know. So we're playing Stratus. That long-winded aside. Playing 3 Alias, obviously. We're playing 1 Ocean. Ocean's probably the worst card in the deck. And when I say that, it's probably my least favorite card in the deck. But I don't think it's actually the worst. It very well could be, to be fair. I don't know. But yeah, it's just kind of shit, like a lot of the times. Sometimes it's like absolutely game breaking and winning the game on the spot. But I find in those situations you're usually in somewhat of a good spot anyways. Not always. Sometimes this can really kind of put you ahead or like help you come back from a losing position. But I feel like most of the time you have like, I don't know, like an Alias and like a Water already in bin, so your Miracle Fusion's alive, and you have obviously some defense for this card, because like rarely you just summon this card like and leave it there with no defense. Maybe if you're like in a top decking situation, you just pray your opponent can't rip something to kill it. But so you're usually in like a decent spot anyways if you're summoning this card to try to resolve its effect. It just has to be there, unfortunately. Like I mean, it really pains me. Like, yeah, I mean, if there's like a better way to feel what this card does, which is like be a searchable water, by Stratos, Equal, and Rotos. That's four targets. And then also like, I guess it helps against DD Crow when you Miracle, because it's both a water and a hero. Like if there was a card to fill this spot, I would put it in literally like yesterday. But unfortunately there's just not. So it's in here. That was just a bit of a rant because I really don't like this card, but it just has to be played. Playing 3 Diva and 2 Gilman, kind of similar situation as Ocean. I won't go on a rant with these ones because I mean like, I don't know, they're just really annoying. I drew I think I played like I played 18 games in the winner box. So there was 5 rounds of Swiss. I went 5-0, and then we had a cut to top 4. I won in the top 4 and then lost in the finals in game 3. And in the finals, 2 of the games I opened double Gilman. I opened double Gilman 3 games out of 18 in the event. It's 1 in 6. I don't know the math on if that's like reasonable or not. I feel like it's slightly unreasonable at least, potentially very unreasonable, but who's to say? But I actually won two of the three games that I opened double Gilman, so I mean that goes to show you like you can win. It's just fucking so annoying. It's mostly the mental factor, if anything. Like it's the same as like if you played Dino Rapper back in the day, where you open like for instance, bit of a tangent, but like the year I won nationals in 2012, first game of the finals, I'm versing a very strong opponent, Marcus Rockman. Some of you might know him from back in the day. And I look at my hand, and it's three Carbazoos and a Sabersaurus, and I just thought, right, like let's go next. That's fucking over. But unfortunately, I was able to win that game and then win the finals 2-0. So like it's mainly the mental thing. If you can get over the fact that you see this little prick like this dude with this little fucking spear and his shitty little, I mean, is it a main? I guess it's gills, like spikes, whatever. You see this guy in your hand, and you can just get past it. It's fine. Like it's definitely playable, but I mean, it's the most annoying thing is just seeing him in your hand, and you're like, oh, why am I even playing this game or deck for that matter? Too honest, very standard. That's it for the monsters. It's pretty slim. No fat to really cut there, I suppose. 3 Miracle, very obviously. 3 Gemspark. Gemspark's probably the best card in the deck. Obviously sometimes it's dead, but it just wins you the game against so many matchups. It's quite unreal. 2 Equal. Some people like play 3, but I just found like it can be super dead. Later on in the game. You already have a few bad draws late game, like Future Fusion, Trap Dust Shoot, and such. And like I play Legacy of Yatagarasu, spoiler alert. So you can also draw like Dead Divas and like potentially a Gilman that then kills your Divas, which makes them dead. So the like 3 Equal is probably just too much. Like I guess if Stratus wasn't a card and you couldn't search, like it didn't get itself. It didn't use up 2 heroes at once, because obviously when you play Stratus, you're using 1 hero in your deck, and then you search another hero, so it's 2 heroes out of your deck at once. I guess maybe 3 Equal will be relevant, but like that's not a scenario we're in, so I think 2 is fine. Heavy. Yeah, you have to play it, and I mean, it's just whatever. Like, if you're playing a more trap-heavy version of heroes, you can cut heavy if you want, but like, you have to cut heavy as fucked. Rota. And then the last spell is Future Fusion. So I'm like really underwhelmed with this card lately. I have been for a while, to be fair, but it's one of those cards where it's like, it just seems like almost blasphemous to cut from the deck, and like everyone who saw your list would be like I can imagine if I like say for example I played an online event and topped, you'd have like I don't know Fraser Smith and like other people like that being like, this guy's playing no Future Fusion, like this guy must absolutely suck. Like it's one of those cards, right? But in reality, it's as I mentioned, it's often very dead late game. If it's not completely dead, by the way, like you just don't have any targets in your deck, it can also just be way too slow to actually. It's like essentially a dead card, ostensibly. So it's either just completely dead or can be a dead card. Obviously, it can be live and can be quite good. So the best, and it loses to Oppression, Typhoon, Dust Tornado, stuff like that. We know this, but the best the best like time for this card is going first and your first turn. If you're going first, you're pretty happy, regardless. And I think this card can also hinder you quite heavily as well. I think one of the things that is kind of underrated about why this card is not great is because I think Gauze is actually quite good in this deck, but there's just way too many times where Gauze conflicts with Future Fusion because they'll like deprison your Ab-Zero or Kaios it or do some stupid shit like that, and then your Future Fusion is just like stone dead for the entire game unless you Heavy Storm yourself, right? I mean, play Heavy Storm, right? So like, yeah, it's even more dead than Call the Haunted tends to be. So I think it's, or maybe not so much, but like it is pretty dead sometimes. So it basically, and it doesn't force you not to play Gauze, but playing Gauze with Future Fusion is a very risky kind of combination in my opinion. And I also think this card's really bad because it gives your opponent a easy card to target with certain effects. So the effects I'm talking about are like Kaios, Raikou, Gemspark, etc. Even like Typhoon, Dust Tornado against like frogs if they set a Typhoon or Regeki Break or whatever. Sometimes they'll like set a Dust Tornado or Typhoon, expecting you to play spell and traps. But you don't actually want to because you want to keep their Treeborn and Bin dead. So like this basically, I mean, not forces you to play into it, but like if you want to play Future Fusion, you have to play you have to activate it, right? I mean, it's the same with trap cards, but like it just feels worse with this card for some reason. But yeah, things like Raikou, where like, you know, like say you turn 1 Future Fusion or what have you, they set a card, then you like draw a Stratus, right? Say for example, this is a thing that happens like somewhat often. I mean, you basically play 4 Stratuses, so it's possible for sure. And then you want to summon Stratus and swing to Raikou, and you want for them to obviously kill your Stratus, but Future Fusion is just on the board, like being fucking useless. There's a lot of times where people like want to Kaius you, but you just have a few back row, and it's obviously very risky to Kaius into a back row. Like, you can just get bottomless or TT'd, or I play Legacy, as I mentioned. There's a lot of chainable cards, right? So it's kind of risky to do that. But if you've got Future Fusion on the board, it's just a fucking easy hit, like, guaranteed. And then the last thing, maybe not the last thing, but the last thing I can think of in this moment is in the mirror match, it's actually, I think this card is really, really bad. Oh, I just thought of something else. But yeah, in the mirror match, the card's fucking awful. The reason being is that a lot of the time in the mirror match, it's just whoever can stick Alias and draw Honest to make the Alias ram in their favor, and then force their opponent to use a trap on Alias, and then you gem Spark, and the game's kind of fucking over. That's like one of the ways to win, like probably the most likely way to win the mirror match, in all honesty. So what this card essentially does is just gives your opponent a free gem Spark target, and it's just great all the time. So like often in the mirror, I'm setting one card like a bottomless. I'll set two if it's chainable, so I might like set like bottomless MST, bottomless Legacy, and then my opponent thinks, okay, I can summon Alias like free because I have gem Spark, right? And I just hit the other back row and I'm gonna +1. When actually, in actuality, they'll go even because I'll Typhoon or Legacy. So it's like not amazing for me, but it gets rid of their Alias and their Gem Spark, which are two like power cards. And I use like a Bottomless and like a Legacy, which is, they're okay, but like not amazing. But basically, having Future Fusion on the board just doesn't allow me to play that strategy, and it makes like certain situations mid-game much harder to kind of navigate. So that's really annoying. And then the other thing as well is like this deck is, I mean, obviously people think this is like an advantage deck, which it is, but it's also a very heavy tempo deck. You kind of just want to kill your opponent like pretty fast if possible, and you want to be doing like things each turn to kind of achieve that goal. Obviously this is one of the more fair decks in Edison. Like there's not too many broken plays you can do. Like it's not like fucking zombies or, you know, like vayu'd turbo with returns and burials and shit, right? Like you're pretty simple. You summon a monster, maybe have Miracle Fusion sometimes or whatever. So the thing with this card is that sometimes you want to summon a monster, like an Alias, for example, or like an Ocean or a Diva into Magical Android. That's probably the best example in this use case. And you want to summon that, but you have a Future Fusion that's like waiting to pop. Like maybe it's on its first turn, or you just activate it first turn, and then you're like, well, do I summon Android as well? The reason why it sucks is because you just are like so dead to Torrential. Like, you can't do anything about it. Your Ab-Zero comes out and they just TT you, and then you lose your Android, which is the best case. I mean, the best example use case. But sometimes you use your Alias or you're forced to Gem Spark just out of the blue because you fucking had to resolve this card like forcefully. So that's a really another annoying thing. It's pretty niche. I mean, Mirror Force is kind of the same. Obviously, you can summon Ab-Zero in defense, but there's certain like matchups you don't want to do that anyways. So sometimes you're kind of forced to just summon an attack. If I have Mirror Force or TT, it really sets you back. So I think I'm going to cut this card, at least in testing, and just see how it goes. It does sound pretty like blasphemous, and the reason why I went on like a bit of a rant there is because like I feel like I need some justification why you would cut this card. I feel most people see it as like an auto include, especially because in Frogs people starting playing it as well. I think it's much better in that deck, by the way. Just saying. All right, cool. 3D Prison, obviously not going to explain. Two bottomless. 2 Hero Blast, not going to explain. 2 Compulse. This card's really, really good. Earlier in my time playing Edison format, I thought this was more like a fringe card, more of a niche in certain scenarios, maybe a side deck card. And that's why I didn't play Heroes very much, because people had to play like Wind Blast and shit like that. And I'm like, there's just fucking no way Wind Blast is good in this deck. Like, I'm sorry to the guys who like pioneered this deck, but Wind Blast is just shit. Let's be real. But the fact that Compulse is actually insane helps this deck a lot, because you just didn't have enough cards to play. And I think I mentioned that in the tier list or whatever. So Compulse being good, I mean, it's always been good in reality. Maybe not when Edison first came out and people were playing like more Light Swans and shit like that, but like for a while it's been good. People have kind of realized recently that it is really good, and I was late on the bandwagon, to be fair. Like I didn't pioneer Compulse, but it's just fucking good, isn't it? Like there's no ifs or buts about it. I'm playing 2 Legacy of Yatagaratsu. I might bump this up to 3. This might fulfill the Future Fusion spot, and there's another card a bit later on that I might cut. But yeah, Legacy is great because honestly, the main way you lose with this deck is you just draw half of your engine and you don't draw the other half. Like, you draw your Gem Sparks and your Hero Blasts and your Miracles, but no way to hero. Or, like, vice versa, you draw, like, a bunch of monsters and no real, like, maybe one Gem Spark, but it doesn't really get you there and stuff like that. So you need more gas. And the thing, like, obviously, the obvious question is why not Upstart and why Legacy? I think one of the main reasons is that life points are super important in this deck. As I mentioned, this is primarily a tempo deck, advantage as well, maybe like half or whatever. So giving your opponent 1,000 life points doesn't seem super relevant, but it actually really is. There's a lot of times where you can kind of rush your opponent down with using like Honest and shit to get them below, in like a kill range essentially, right, to like a Brynac play or whatever. But also the fact like you can get them below brain control range, and brain control really is like annoying. It's probably the most annoying card to verse, one of the, if not the most. And same with Oppression, like against vayu'd Turbo or some other random deck that plays Oppression. So life points are a super important factor. So I think Legacy is better than Upstart for that reason. And then the other thing is that it just allows you to get kind of free advantage. You can set it into Raikos, you can get Gem Spark. As I mentioned, you get Gem Spark and you play this card. Kaya, Steven. So you can set 2 and like get Heavy Stormed and not really care too much. So yeah, I think it's really good in this deck. I was a bit skeptical at first, but it's just proven to be like really good. Obviously, there are times where you draw it and you're kind of like, you need to draw a good card, and you draw Legacy, so you have to set it and wait a turn. But I mean, that's just going to happen. Like, you can't play, your whole deck can't be good cards against established boards. Like, it's just not possible in Edison format. So I think Legacy is really good, and maybe a 3-of is needed. Mirror Force, obviously, TT, Dust Shoot. So this is another one of the cards that's really bad to draw late game. I mean, obviously it's way too good to cut, and like anyone who thinks that is just wrong. Like straight up, I'd placed it in every single deck in Edison, because it is often game winning when you resolve it turn 1. But yeah, it's just another bad card to draw late game. So I'd rather reduce the other cards in my deck that are bad to draw late game rather than cut Dust Shoot, because Dust Shoot's obviously probably the best card in the format. SJ, obviously. Playing Starlight Road, I really actually dislike this card. I think it is quite readable. And like, the thing is, like, people might say to that, especially people who like, I don't mean to be offensive, but like people who think they're kind of really good or like at the top of like a top player in the format, will kind of say to that statement that I just made, they'll just say, well, you can just like hide the fact that you have it and you can kind of, disguise it, obviously. And to that, I respond with, if you're playing a card that is most powerful when you can kind of just not give a shit about certain cards like Heavy Storm and TT and Mirror Force and really just go all out, if you're constantly trying to disguise the fact that you have it, it just loses a bunch of its potency. Like, it's just straight up a worse card if you have to disguise you have it. And against like decent opponents, you kind of do have to disguise you have it. Obviously, there are times where it resolves and you disguise it and it's completely game breaking. But there is, I mean, definitely more times when it's just completely dead and it's a card you set that also blocks you from using Gauze, also gets hit by Raikos a lot, Lilas. I mean, it just eats that shit, right? And like, realistically, TT and Mirror Force aren't that devastating, except in the Fusion case that I mentioned. It's really just Heavy Storm and like niche things like Judgment Dragon and Celestia that obviously don't come up very often. So you're really playing this for one card. I guess Black Rose maybe as well, but again, same thing. Like if you set cards, they're not gonna Black Rose you if they're. Some people just say fuck it and do it, but like in like an actual like tournament where people are trying to win, you don't get that too much. It's more like conservative for sure, especially online. In real life, because people are like more nervous and stuff or whatever. So I think it's a card I'm definitely going to try cutting. I have tried it before, but I was playing shit cards in the main deck like DD Crow, and that just didn't really work out. So I'm going to try to cook something else. Let's move on to the extra. I'll try to slide through this, because I always take quite long with my deck profiles, unfortunately. It's just natural of being a yapper. 3 Ab-Zero. Standard. Double Gaia. I guess they only change in the extra deck, I think, online. I haven't checked my deck in a little while, but I think I'm playing 1 Gaia online. It's come up maybe like once in every, I want to say 25 to 30 games, which is like obviously not a lot. That's like what, like 3 or 4%. But it is enough to make me be like, okay, I don't have the level 5 water dude in real life. It's like $30 or like $20 or whatever. I'm just not gonna buy it. I just don't care. So I'll play a second Gaia in real life. That's basically my rationale for this. Chimera Tech for Cyber Dragon, pretty standard. Double Catastrophe, obviously very standard. 1 Mandroid. I think a second Mandroid is actually probably going to make its way into my deck. I don't know if I have one or not. I'm actually not sure. I think I do, but I'm like not 100% sure. I couldn't be fucked looking through it for yesterday, looking through my stuff. But yeah, it does like actually surprisingly come up. Definitely more than Double Gaia, so, and probably even more than the Water Dude. Like, sometimes you just have Honest in hand, and you really want to make, like, especially against like Frog Marks, you really want to make like Android, especially if your opponent doesn't have any like Waters or heroes in their bin. Like, they're not very set up, so they can't really Ab-Zero you like that quickly. You kind of want to make an Android. Obviously, it's a better card than Catastrophe against like everything except Ab-Zero against that deck, right? Maybe like Junction, etc. And then it gets Kaios or Rized or whatever. I guess Kaios in this case, not Rized. And then you kind of sometimes need to make another one if you draw Honest or what have you. So it does actually come up. Brian X, the best card in the extra deck besides the fusions, obviously. Guy, Goyo's just there to whatever. Black Rose, like, actually just hardly ever comes up. Double Stardust, you do make Stardust, like, definitely sometimes organically, and then you have Starlight Road, so it's worth playing too. If I cut Starlight Road, I could probably cut one of these and use an extra slot. And then Colossal, this has come up a couple of times, this could probably cut as well, but it just feels bad when you need like a level 8 besides Stardust and you just don't have it, and you're like, well, that's game. Do Cyber Dragon, this card is like pretty underwhelming against most matchups, even matchups that you think in theory like would be good against, like stuff like GBs and shit, it's just kind of like sometimes bad. Because like, I mean, it's only really good against Bottomless because you can Cyber and they're forced to deal with it right away if they have Bottomless. And then you can just summon another monster, right? Like, that's the idea. But if they have like Deep Prison set, they're obviously not going to they can't use the Deep Prison on the Cyber Dragon summon. And then you still have to be careful of Mirror Force or Torrential until you attack, right? Or summon another monster. So it's not amazing, but I think Machines is just too hard of a matchup for this deck specifically to not play it. Potentially, I could see playing 3 Fossil Diner instead, and cutting both Cyber Dragon, because Fossil Diner is quite good against Machines as well. You just set it and kill all their fucking fortresses and whatnot. So that's an option. I'm playing GDD Crow at the moment. I think it's kind of average, but there's just certain decks where, like Dragon Turbo and like Norlas, I guess they've fallen off a little bit recently, but like stupid shit like that where you just can't really win a fair game. You can't even play a fair game normally, so you kind of just need DD Crow sometimes to like counteract their unfairness of their deck. Maybe you should just accept when they go off, and you kind of lose, but that's a conversation for another day for myself. I play Gauze in the side deck. It's really good in the mirror match. I started it against like vayu'd Turbo as well because it's quite good against like if your opponent like returns or really goes all out and burials you and tries to go for game. Gauze is really kind of unexpected, and you usually win the game on your next turn with a little bit of a comeback. And I'm up main deck it. That's how good I think of this card. So Double Noman looks a bit wacky, I think, but in my opinion, it's absolutely mandatory. It's probably the best card against vayu'd Turbo, let's be real. Raikou and Hamster, especially Hamster, is really like a hindrance to this deck. So I think just being able to summon your monsters, again, because like you want to just summon Alias against like vayu'd Turbo, for example, right? Or, yeah, let's just say vayu'd Turbo for this example. You want to be able to summon your Alias and force them to use a trap on it, and then you Gem Spark another trap, and you win the game. So if they set a monster, you obviously can't really do that, because you have to swing. And then, if obviously it's a Raikou or Hamster, it activates in damage steps, so you can't Gem Spark it. So you usually have to end up Gem Sparking the set monster preemptively. Then if it's like a Sangan or a Plague or a Vayu or a Necrogarden, for example, it's really bad for you. So I think Noman is just absolutely mandatory in that matchup. Like, it just can't be cut. I don't care what anyone says, which is a bit ignorant, but fuck off. 2 Dust Tornado, mainly for vayu'd Turbo, because oppression really hurts. Doesn't seem like it should, but it actually really does. I guess like there's probably other matchups I'm not thinking of that Dust Tornado is relevant against, but whatever. 2 Pulling the Rug for Frogs, quite a hard matchup. I guess maybe like you sided this in against like maybe that zombie deck with like instant fusions and shit, because it's got like 3 Kaias, and that's like one of the primary plays in the deck is like instant fusion Kaias. So if you like Pulling the Rug, it's probably GG. And then 2 Light Mirror, because Light Swans and Fairy is actually really tough matchups. So this is like absolutely mandatory in my opinion. Playing 3 is, I would definitely could see the argument for it. Currently I've got 2 because I think it just clumps a little bit in those matchups sometimes. But yeah, that's the deck. Let me know what you think. Like I said, chuck a comment. What do you think the best rarity of Stratus is? If you think it's the new alternate art, I might have to just like, I don't know, ban your entire YouTube account. That's just like the wrong opinion. I'm sorry. But yeah, especially between rare and jump Stratus, let me know. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and yeah, see you soon.